Hey guys, and it's Glenn here from jazzpianolessons.online. Today we're going to be looking at how do you play the piano when you don't have a bass player, when you don't have a drummer, what do you do, Okay, so we're going to get straight into it, and we're going to use the tune Take the A Train by, that you would have heard, the famous big band, Duke Ellington big band would have, maybe you've heard that anyway. It's a standard now, and so it's just one of those tunes you want to learn at some stage. So yeah, recommend learning. It's a great tune. I'm going to play it in the key of C, which is the standard key for it, but there's plenty of other ways you can play it, of course. All right, first thing I want to say, when you are playing without a bass player, don't try and be the bass player, all right? You don't need to be the bass player, right? So that's the first thing. Don't try and be the bass player. You don't have to go. You don't have to get that going. I mean, you can add a walking bass, and I think adding a walking bass is kind of nice occasionally here and there throughout the piece of music, right? Now, I think sometimes there are times when you're going to play a whole song and you want to play walking bass. There's also times when you're accompanying somebody else and you might want to play some walking bass as well, accompanying a saxophone player or a singer or something like that, right? So in that case, you'd be doing, some bass lines and some just comping some different chords in your left and in your right hand, right? So but I want to say, don't worry about being the bass player. You don't have to be the bass player, you're the piano player still, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you'll never play any bass notes, all right? So when you're playing, you're going to play a few little bass notes here and there. Now, sometimes, people will go, do this kind of thing. There's no need to do that either, right? So, and this brings me really to point number 2, right? So the first point is you don't have to do the walking bass, right? You don't have to be the bass player. The second point is to trust your audience to know where the beat is. Trust your audience that they have got enough musical intelligence to know where the beat is, right? So that means you can relax and not have to fill in every little gap. Here's what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so what I'm doing there is I'm allowing my listener to know that it's going to be that they can fill in the gaps. They know where the beat is, right? If they're listening to jazz, they're probably fairly intelligent, listeners of music anyway, right? So if they want to listen to your music, they won't have any issues with that, right? And that means you don't have to fill up all the gaps, right? Allow the listener to hear the gaps, and it's okay. It's okay. They will cope with that. There's beautiful. We've always said there's beautiful notes in the spaces, right? There's beautiful music in the spaces. If you're always playing, it's not going to be as effective. And there are only a few players that can kind of get away with being ridiculously busy all the time. Like Oscar Peterson or something like that, right? Okay. So everyone else uses space quite well, So I would encourage you to, 1, not worry about being the bass player, and 2, trust your audience with the understanding of the beat, and also trusting the audience in the understanding of harmony. You don't have to play the D note when you're playing a D chord. You don't have to play a C note. There's my C chord. Right? I've got no C. I'm not playing any C. Here's my D. What do we got? We've got sharp 5, sharp 9. I'm not playing a D. D minor, I'm not playing a D. G 13, and again, you can see there's the G there, I'm not playing it. All right, so you don't actually have to do, the guide tones is what's going to tell people what's going on, right? But you don't have to spell out the chords. You don't have to go C major 7, and then continue on D, G7, C major 7, A. I mean, it doesn't even sound any good, right? Just trust that people will hear it. And then you can kind of just play when you want to play. I'm not even playing an E, right? Which is the guide tone, which is what you kind of should play, right? You might not like that though. I like it though. Oh. Playing a little bit outside today because I feel like it. Here's the bridge. You can hear it coming, right? I'm not spelling it out, right? Right, you can trust your audience. I'm going outside the key, right? It's in the key of C, and I'm playing all sorts of black notes there, as you can see. I mean, obviously the tune kind of lends itself to that because there's a little bit of chromaticism in the melody. There's a little bit of that going on anyway, right? So one, trust your, don't be the bass player. 2, trust your audience. And 3, just chuck in a little bit of, bass notes here and there, right? So that'll just keep everybody grounded as they're having a listen, right? So you can there are other ways of doing that. The reality is when you're playing solo piano, everyone kind of wants to hear a little bit of harmony, a little bit of bass every now and then, and of course the melody, right? But you've only got 2 hands, so you've got to choose what you're going to do with that, right? So a little bit of bass every now and then, a little bit of chords every now and then, and a bit of melody going on, right? Now, now melodies have phrases and melodies need breaks, right? Of course, right? So those are the moments. So you really need to serve your melody. That's a big tip, right? You've really got to serve that melody. I've got to play that, or some kind of, improvised variation of that. Right. But when you have the phrase, when you've stopped improvising, then you can kind of hit something else. You might then so whilst you're doing the melody, improvising, or solo or playing the melody, right? You need to kind of focus on that a little bit. Then, but with your left hand, particularly if it's a faster piece, you're going to be going mainly chords and some bass notes here and there. Okay. You might kind of walk. Might walk and play the melody at the same time. You might do that, but you probably will do a little bit of bass notes. Come up and do some comping, right? Whilst you're serving the melody, right? But once the melody is having a little bit of a break from a phrase, then you can go. See, I'm going back here. Right, that's where you can trust your audience to kind of in their mind just kind of keep it going. All right. So, but you can, whilst the melody is not, you don't have to worry about the melody. You can come down and play some bass notes and chords at the same time. That kind of works quite well. You can see how I was doing it that way, right? One of the other things you can do, of course, if you're playing a piece of music that's a little bit slower, is that you can play more voicings that include the bass notes. And kind of, get away with that kind of. Let's say I was playing My Romance. Same key. So I'm playing the bass notes, and I'm playing the bass note with my left hand. I'm playing one of the notes of the intended harmony that I'm using with my left hand as well. I'm playing some of the harmony with my right hand, but I'm playing the melody with like kind of the top 3 fingers. See, my thumbs doing a harmony here. so I'm kind of, I guess, sharing it. So there's a time when you can play bass chord, or forget about the bass and just play chord and go bass chord with your left hand. There's other times when you're going to do bass, so bass left, chord with your left and right with your left, and then chord with the right. It's easier for me to play it than it is to describe it. And then melody with the few top fingers, all right? Now that's going to work better in a slower piece of music, right? So that's one of the things that you can do. Another things you can do, and this was really popular in during the bebop era, and well, basically when you're playing really fast tunes, is that you might want to play 1/7 or 1/3. So it's 3 and 7 are the guide tones, which tell you whether it's a dominant chord or a major chord or a minor chord, right? So that's a great way to play chords. You know, here's a C9. You know, 3, 7, and I'm just adding in 9. Right, it sounds really cool. Just that one little, you know, 3 notes, right? But you might sometimes play 1/7 and then 1/3. You know, so you can go, if I'm playing, let's say I'm playing C7, and sort of chuck in an E somewhere in my melody. Going to the F. All right, so I'm kind of doing it that way. Now if you've got big hands, you can kind of do, instead of one, because you can go around, here's the cycle of fourths, right? So I'm going around there, you can kind of hear the harmony. C7, F7, B flat, major 7, E flat, major 7, A flat, major, you know, whatever, right? E minor 7, A7, D7. Maybe a bit low, but you might get the idea now. If you've got big hands, I've got quite small hands actually. You might, and I mean, a lot of piano players like do have big hands, right? But you might want to do, instead of 1/3, 1/10. Okay, so you're doing 1/7, 1/10. All right, I can't do that fast, right? I can kind of. Oh, it's cold at the moment where I am too, so it's my fingers don't want to stretch that far. All right, so you might go, which will really give you a little bit of harmony, a little bit of bass as well. That's one more trick that you can do. But I would say the most important thing is don't try and be the bass player, and trust your audience will hear it. I'm not even playing that much, right? Hopefully that is helpful for you, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye.